Hello, audience. Well, this is Thursday afternoon, and I like to do sort of a midweek live, just bring you up to date on things that don't necessarily get to talk about. I will say I've got, I think, a great show, even though it's a holiday weekend. I hope you tune in. It's a fresh show. I did not do any of the best of stuff. I know a lot of people do that. Nothing wrong with it, but I want to do fresh content, and so I have an awesome interview with Nigel Farage. And I bring that up because we talk a lot about what's going on in terms of free speech. Nigel has just been one of the fiercest advocates for free speech. He's just been a courageous voice out there. And what do we find out in our side of the pond? Oh, boy, we have a problem with it, right? And the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today was this whole Mark Zuckerberg admitting to the fact that he agreed to censorship. And so with me on this conversation is Garrett Ziegler. Garrett Ziegler wrote the report on the Biden laptop. He is currently being sued by Hunter Biden for simply putting out every single page that showed some sort of criminal activity on the Biden laptops. He got his own copy of it. He went through it for 18 months and he recorded it. He put it out in book form, but you can also find it online. But Garrett, this is a really important topic for you too, because the Hunter Biden laptop is something that fully Mark Zuckerberg admitted to actually censoring himself. And this is from a New York Post article written by Matt Taibbi. Remember, Matt Taibbi is one of those who got access to the Twitter files so that he could go through that and find out about all the censorship. And he found out that he himself was censored as a journalist. But he says Zuckerberg addressed Meta's blocking in 2020 of the New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop. And this is what he said. He said, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It has since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. And in retrospect, this is Mark Zuckerberg saying this, we should not have demoted this story. Okay. Well, I mean, he should have never, at first, he goes further on to actually admit to censoring COVID 2020 information as well. So this has been a censorship. And by the way, the government coerced him into doing this or twisted his arm or however you want to say it. They were in collusion together. To me, when you look at this holistically, it's really almost traitorous. Before I bring you in, Garrett, though, one more thing. Wall Street Journal yesterday, Philip Hamburger wrote, and Philip Hamburger, by the way, teaches Columbia Law at Columbia Law School, and he is the CEO of the New Civil Liberties Alliance. He says that Zuckerberg sent a mea culpa letter Monday to the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, admitting that Meta, which owns Facebook, erred in acquiescing to the government pressure of censorship. But it's important to look closely at what the letter says and what it doesn't say. And he makes the argument that in that letter to Jim Jordan from Mark Zuckerberg, that he was essentially equivocating. He was essentially trying to make it both ways. He ultimately said that it was their decision whether or not to take the content down, and we own our decisions. But Mr. Hamburger alleges that that's because he wants in no way for it to appear that he actually was told and directly followed the orders of the government. But that's very much reading between the lines. So in light of all this, in light of the fact that you are now in this massive lawsuit, that Hunter Biden's suing you over simply putting out the content, which now everybody agrees, including the government agrees, was his actual laptop.
Yes.
I mean, how do you feel about all this?
I feel disgusted. I want to talk about the tone and that equivocation from Zuckerberg. You know, he doesn't think in biblical categories, good, evil. He doesn't even think in categories of the Ten Commandments. So he could have, if he were an adult in maturity, he cannot apologize. He cannot just say in writing, we apologize for our lies and our deceit, and we will try to be better men tomorrow. That is not in his vocabulary. So we're dealing with people who have never been taught, kindergarten rules of if you hit somebody, apologize. He wronged the American public and all of the excuses. He essentially said we were cowardly, but in that face of cowardice, the only conclusion I can draw is that in hindsight, we should have done better. There was really no apology. So it was disgusting. Zuckerberg hinted at this. He didn't put it in writing, but he hinted at this in 2020. There was a hearing 2 weeks after the New York Post story came out. I think it was October 28th. Don't quote me on that. It was in the 20s, 2020. And he talked about how there was an advance warning. And what our dossier does, which is the subject of that lawsuit that you mentioned, is it names the people. So Elvis Chan, Laura Dimlow, Andy Stone, all of these people were effectively the arms of the federal government. And as well as most of your audience, that the First Amendment is against the government. It's about constraining the government. So this idea that Facebook can't be, held accountable because they're a private actor, that is not what is occurring here. The agents at Twitter and at Facebook are the agents of the federal government. And this has just been litigated at SCOTUS. A district court just allowed RFK's lawsuit to go forward. There was a big decision this summer that the left wing said they won, which is they couldn't prove, it's called Missouri v. Biden, but actually the state of Louisiana did most of the heavy lifting. But they said that that the government wasn't basically doing the acting itself. Therefore, the First Amendment didn't apply. Well, the more that is dug into this, the more they see that, no, it really was Elvis Chan, Laura Dimlow, Henry Cohn. We know the names of these people. And in fact, Marco, this is other news. Marco Polo is now under federal investigation for doxing because we figured out the names of these agents. So the federal government, they can't even stand the fact that we know their names. So they redact everything. When we have a leak like the Hunter Biden laptop and we figure out who these people are, they hate that and they think it's illegal. So they think that they should be able to put their boot on your neck. And as their boot is on your neck, you can't even know whose boot it is. That is an abomination to me. None of the founders would have put up with it. I don't think they would have resorted to violence yet, and I'm not calling for that. What I am saying is the situation and the status quo is unacceptable. We have to have a new government. And if DJT gets back in, all of these people have to be fired. That's not a policy statement. That's a legal statement. They must be held accountable. So I feel, to answer your question directly, I feel disgust at Zuckerberg. This wins him no votes amongst the hard right because there was no apology. It was a bunch of words. And I don't really pay attention to what people say, even if, let's say somebody doesn't like.
Let's be honest. It could have completely changed the trajectory of the lawsuit that you're embroiled in that is costing you thousands of dollars per month to even defend against. Had Trump been elected and had that Hunter Biden laptop story been more widely known by the electorate, and everybody says
I agree completely.
That would have made a difference.
That's why we focus so much on it. Most people on the left, their strategy is to try to make this about Hunter when that's not what it's about. It's about Joe. Hunter's only important because of Joe. What does that do? That broadens the story. I wouldn't focus years of my life on just wayward son. That story is as old as the New Testament, the parable of the prodigal son. This is about Joe. I think it's one of the top 5 stories of the 21st century. There's 9/11. There's the forever war of Afghanistan. Those two, I think, top it. And then there's a couple of other stories like this. Why is it, in my opinion, that important? Because it involves the head of the CIA. All of the intel agencies knew about Hunter Biden. They all knew it. And a lot of their former spooks, and Michael Morrell, who was a current contractor, along with Jeremy Bash, that was another finding from the impeachment report that our material was cited in. Those people were current CIA contractors when they were signatories to the letter. So you mentioned the lawsuit. Our small C3 has spent over $300,000 on attorneys. That's more than my house. It's absolutely an abomination. We haven't gotten the mainstream support, even on the right, that we've deserved, partly because we're the group that put out the material for free. Every listener and viewer of this interview right now can go look at every email on the Biden laptop at bidenlaptopemails.com. You can download them yourself. You can go view all the photos. And then if you want to read for free the e-reader, go to bidenreport.com. So Joey mentioned yesterday, I know this is a little bit off, but real quick, this goes with book banning and everything. Joey made a tweet yesterday about book banning because he wants there to be phallic imagery and phallic language in 12-year-old books in libraries. Yeah. We responded back to Joey that said, your own son is literally trying to ban our book. In his prayer for relief in his lawsuit against us, Jeannie, he wants our sites to be taken down and all of the donation money that our C3 has acquired. He wants that expunged. This is the president's family.
This is absolutely the biggest fight that we're having, not just in the nation, but globally speaking. I mean, we can look at the fact that they just, the Telegram founder, Pavel Durov, was arrested in France for failure to roll over with sufficiently, enthusiasm to the European authorities because he would not uncover particular entities that were using his coded and encrypted Telegram.
That's why I love it so much, if you ever wondered. They can't get in. They have to go to the UAE. The servers are in the UAE, and they hate that. It makes me sick. I would. But
they arrested him, and he had to put up I can't remember how many millions of dollars of bond, $5 million bond, to just simply get put out. And also, he was lured there by President Macron himself. He was lured there from Dubai to go there. He thought he was going to sit down and have dinner with the French president, and instead they lured him there to arrest him because he would not reveal the names of the people that were using they do not want the word to get out. And this is the same fight that Nigel talked about too, that's going on in the UK, but he's confident. And I think I'm confident that we're going to win out in the end, that the people are onto this and they don't like it. And at the end, these people, but you know what, the only way that we can win is to replace those in power.
Yes.
I mean, make no mistake about it. If Kamala gets some power, they will do things. And if they take control of the House and the Senate, they will pack the court. They will add a couple states so that they can have an everlasting majority. And they will pass laws that are anti-free speech. Just like Great Britain has passed laws now saying that, guess what? We can, if we don't like what you say on your social media posts, we can go after you as well. We can put you in jail. I mean, this cannot stand. If we don't exercise our right to free speech, we will lose our right to free speech.
Yes, and courage is contagious. That's the only value add I can have to your statement, that once it just sometimes takes one person in a community, and other people will find the courage that the modern world and their commercial loves. What I mean by that, I mean the willingness to shut up to keep your job. They will dig deep and find the courage to say, you know what? No, there are things that exist. They're called chromosomes. Men can't be women. This is dress up time. This is clown world. So I think that if nobody in your community is stepping up, if you do it, you can draw other people in, and that's a positive message for people that I don't think we hear enough. That courage is contagious. And sometimes people are courageous, but they're not leaders. And that's okay. Yeah, by its essence, we cannot have more leaders than followers.
Well, I got to tell you, it's also kind of fun. It's absolutely kind of fun after a certain point. Like, listen, everybody knows who you are in your world that stands by you. Everybody knows you in your world that's trying to sue you. There's nothing. What else are they going to do to you? Really? Like, seriously, what else are they going to do to you? Look what they did to your boss, Peter Navarro. Look what they did to Steve Bannon. They're in jail because they refused the commands of an illegal, ill-conceived, absolutely, truly illegal commission, and refused to be subpoenaed. And
can we talk about Kinzinger for a second?
Oh yeah, let's talk about
he's central to this, and Illinoisans who I'll be sending this link to.
Oh, by the way, Garrett is from Illinois. He's
down in Effingham here.
Yeah, down in Effingham. So he's a native son from here too. So absolutely, let's talk about Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah. So most attention is paid to Nancy and Benny Thompson. Benny Thompson, by the way, was arrested for insurrection. He was like a black nationalist, and the 60s. And apart from not being able to pronounce the word ask correctly, he literally can't say it. There are, and again, this is reality. There's a portion of the English language that Benny cannot speak. Apart from being a committee chair, that's what he's known for, is the January 6th scam. And he's a committee chair for other committees. But him and Pelosi get all the press, along with Shifty Schiff. But our own Illinoisan.
But let's remind people again, Garrett, you were called before that very committee.
Totally. And I gave them every document that I had. They subpoenaed me. I knew from the start that they weren't after the young guy. They were after Peter. And so me and my colleague were both subpoenaed. I just pled the fifth. I don't care about what they think. So there's no pressure to, and Peter had a much better legal argument. Peter was so close to the president. And I agree with Bannon's legal argument that he shouldn't be compelled to talk about what he talked about with the president. But Peter was a staff member at the time. So Peter has already served his sentence. He's out. Bannon is in Danbury, Connecticut right now. There's a chance that he'll get overturned at SCOTUS. So Peter will have served a prison term before SCOTUS is even announced. And if it gets overturned, he will have served a prison term for nothing. Yep. And the district court judge in Washington, everybody needs to know their names, Amit Mehta, he didn't let Peter wait until the appeals went out. And Devin Archer, Hunter's handsome business partner, he was convicted in 2018, indicted in May of 2016. 8 years, and he still hasn't been sentenced, Jeannie. He still hasn't been to jail.
Gosh.
So you got Peter with the district court in D.C. for a misdemeanor saying, no. We got to get you in the clinic ASAP. Devin Archer, there's 8 years in between him. So you see what the priorities are.
Oh, yeah.
But Devin Archer got the SDNY.
It's your judgment. Yeah.
So Kinzinger, yes. I mean, Kinzinger shouldn't be allowed in the state anymore. Or if he is, he should only be welcomed in Cook County. I think his portion of it was a little bit south. I know where it is. It's south of Chicago and near Kankakee, but I'm not sure of the county name. But he shouldn't be welcome. He, along with Liz Cheney, he ruined people's lives. There are some people who killed themselves, not just of the few what I call nonviolent picketers. There were a few violent rioters, and they've been dealt with. And whatever their violence was, it was totally overblown. But most of the people were there just walking. But there are people who committed suicide and families broken apart by what Kinzinger's propaganda did. It's absolutely despicable.
Yeah, no, and then he shows up at the DNC and he calls himself a conservative. That is now the most overused term ever. Does not apply to him. And I actually think maybe we need to adopt more of Nigel Farage's new party term, which is the reformers. We need to be reformers. There's nothing to conserve of the current situation. Oh, by the way, so we need to be reformers. That's a much better term.
Yes, and think about what Kinzinger purports to care about. He's a veteran. He thinks he's into military issues. Kamala's at the ground floor with the Afghanistan debacle. We didn't even get to keep the equipment. One of my favorite things from DJT's announcement speech in 2015 was that he always talked about what we leave behind. We don't even get to keep the equipment. America is on our back so much that we don't even get to keep the loot. Even Indians, when they conquered other Indians, got to keep their loot. So in a key way, we're more primitive than even people who were nomadic herders. We don't even get to keep our equipment when we go into a foreign country. It's absolutely pathetic.
Well, there's a myriad of items to talk about with you, Garrett. We're going to kind of just leave it right there. I just wanted to bring you in because this Zuckerberg admittance to censorship and then trying to basically have it both ways, saying that, well, it was our decision to do it, but yes, we felt pressure from the government. Because he's
saying nothing.
Yeah, but he's walking a narrow legal line, and he knows it.
And he should be indicted once DJT takes it. But I urge all your viewers, I want to do this some more often. I really do. And I urge all your viewers to go check out our e-reader, BidenReport.com. You'll find the entire backstory of who at Facebook was involved. Andy Stone, Laura Dimlow, all these characters.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that information was in there.
Yes.
We're going to have to pull that out again. Garrett, thank you so much. And I'll have to have you on the radio real soon, but I wanted to not miss this story.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. Garrett,
Sounds
thanks.
good.
Garrett Ziegler. And by the way, guys, if you can send any money his way, please do so. You can go to Marco Polo. Is that right? Is that where your 501c3 is?
Yes, Marco Polo 501c3.org. If you want a shorter URL, we bought fightbiden.org. That's all you got to do. Fightbiden.org.
Fightbiden.org. Got it. Fightbiden.org. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Have a
Adam.
great day, Garrett. Thank you for joining me.
Bye-bye.
And thank you to my audience.